It's 5 p.m. on the 6th of January 2016. We're inside the Grand Indonesia shopping mall in Jakarta, a big mall right in the center of the city. Picture lots of shoppers strolling around, their faces lit up with excitement. That's the vibe you get here. At the Olivier Café inside the mall, a young woman occupies a booth, her gaze fixed expectantly as she awaits the company of her friends. The cafe is fitted with nice wooden tables, comfy cushioned booths, and every corner is filled with lush green plants, creating a refreshing and calming atmosphere. It's also a pretty upmarket cafe because it often attracts a crowd of well-to-do folks who appreciate the finer things in life. But our focus is on a booth where a 27-year-old woman named Jessica Wongso is sitting. Her eyes appear to be fixed on the entrance, and she's leaning forward a bit, eager for her friends to arrive. Fast forward to 5:16 p.m., and seated around the table were three women, Mirna Salihin, Jessica Wongso, and their mutual friend Hani. Their iced beverages rested in their hands as they engaged in conversation and shared laughter that echoed with delight. But amidst all the activity, an imminent tragedy was silently biding its time. The events of the next hour would set into motion a chain of events that would summon ambulances and police vehicles, while also attracting news reporters from far and wide.
I heard this first from my mom. So my mom sent me one of those, chain text messages, and it has Myrna's picture, and it's kind of like the headline of the text was something about, oh, this young girl, she died of a heart attack from mixing diet pills, something like that.
The reunion of the three women were all captured on CCTV cameras that were installed in the cafe. The muted and grainy video shows Mirna settling into her seat after sharing a warm hug with her longtime friend Jessica. Soon after, Mirna eagerly grasped her favorite Vietnamese iced coffee and indulged in a sip. But immediately, her facial expression changed into a grimace, a clear display of disgust or shock.
Mirna took a sip. She said, "Oh, why does it taste weird?"
Sensing that the iced coffee had an unusual taste, she signals to her friend Hani and asks if she'd like to give it a try.
She kind of put the straw on the tip of her tongue, and she said that her tongue tingled. And then not long after, you can see Mirna she looked like she was a little bit out of it. She was setting herself, and then she threw her head back.
Right there and then, CCTV cameras capture Mirna's head jerk back involuntarily, as if struggling against an unseen force. It was a heart-wrenching moment and a difficult scene to witness as Mirna slumped into her seat, convulsing and foaming at the mouth for several agonizing minutes. Amid the turmoil, urgency prevailed and an ambulance was swiftly summoned to the cafe. With sirens wailing in the background, Mirna Salihin was taken away. The ambulance raced through the city streets with flashing lights cutting through the evening gloom as it navigated its way to a hospital in central Jakarta. But it's too late.
Analyzing now. Stand clear.
Mirna Salihin was pronounced dead at 6 p.m. Her fight has come to an end.
Mirna is so loving, so caring inside, and she's just that person. And it's just so sad that she's just taken away so soon.
Those sentiments you hear were voiced by one of the early members of a Facebook group named Justice for Mirna. In an exclusive conversation with the Heinous team, she delves into a personal bond with Mirna Salihin, sharing perspectives about her personality and shedding light on the truth behind Mirna's death. Respecting her wish for anonymity, we will refer to her as Jane. It wasn't easy for Jane to open up about details surrounding the case, but at the core of her intention is a strong desire to unveil the true story behind Mirna's death. Because 28-year-old Mirna Salihin did not die due to a mere accident, but a meticulously orchestrated act of murder. You're listening to a special feature episode of Heinous, an Asian true crime podcast, produced by One Up Media. Mirna Salihin was born in 1988. She was the daughter of a prominent businessman named Eddie Salihin. Eddie had occupied a distinguished title as a thriving and accomplished businessman in the world of Jakarta's plastics industry. He made his fortune exporting plastic goods all around Southeast Asia and Australia. He was widely recognized as the titan of the plastics packaging industry. In fact, records state that at one point in time, he was the #1 exporter of plastic goods in Australia. It therefore comes as no surprise that such a flourishing business led to considerable wealth. While Eddie stood as a formidable figure in the business world, his heart softened when it came to his children. Among them, Mirna shared an unbreakable bond with her identical twin sister, Sandy, and their younger sibling, all cherished equally by their doting parents. As is often the case in wealthy families, the children basked in an abundance of affection, toys, and indulgences, a lifestyle that might be deemed privileged by many people. Some might even call them spoiled. Here's what Jane had to say.
I can only share what I know about Mirna, and I believe there are things that some listeners or people who are interested in the case may not know about Mirna. I mean, she's been painted as this perfect socialite from Jakarta, Indonesia. But she is so much more than that. When you say the word socialite, you may think that she's pretentious. So I would like to just, share what I know. I know that Mirna she's super sweet. She's caring. She's blunt. She is also very artistic. She's just really a beautiful soul. Like, I can say that she is.
Jane and Mirna's friendship has weathered the passage of time, an enduring connection forged over many years. Though life's currents have gently led them down separate paths, the echoes of their shared journey still ripple in their memories. They initially crossed paths during their childhood years.
We share the same passion. How close I am, like on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm about 6 or 7 with Mirna.
Based on what Jane told us, and several accounts found on various online sources, Mirna's formative years were characterized by a sense of contentment and an abundance of joy. She figured out early in life that she had always wanted to become a graphic designer, and so after graduating high school, she enrolled in the Billy Blue College of Design in Sydney, a prestigious institution renowned for its significant contributions to the realm of design education in Australia. Mirna was often seen with a group of fellow students who, like her, originated from Indonesia. This allowed her to form a close-knit bond with her peers, creating a circle of friends within the college community. One of Mirna's friends during her college years was Jessica Kumala Wongso, a fellow Indonesian with whom she formed a profound bond. Right before graduation, Jessica had envisioned a future of living in Australia and even had her Australian citizenship application approved. Mirna, on the other hand, wanted to return to Indonesia after completing her studies, with a clear goal of finding a job and starting a family with her longtime boyfriend, Arif Samako. As the school term concluded, Mirna, along with some other friends, headed back to Indonesia, while Jessica remained in place, fully embracing the course she had charted for herself.
So And looking at the history between both of them and Jessica's history when she was living in Sydney, you can kind of make up a small impression of what Jessica's character is like.
What does Jane mean by that? Well, it turns out that Mirna was actually reluctant to meet Jessica at the cafe that day. And the reason behind this boiled down to a genuine fear of Jessica. In fact, she was so scared of her that she felt compelled to enlist the company of a friend Hani to tag along to the cafe. It might come as a surprise given their past as best friends during their university years. Back then, their bond seemed unbreakable. But as we uncovered more about Jessica's concerning past, it would seem that their relationship was tumultuous. After the pair ventured down separate paths following their graduation, Mirna found herself drawn back to Sydney in 2014, motivated by a desire to rekindle the connection she made with her former college friends. Jessica must have missed Mirna dearly because after she heard about her arrival in Sydney, she swiftly invited her to dinner. Their much-anticipated reunion was thoughtfully set against the backdrop of a charming restaurant, and as they sat across from each other, they shared laughter and stories that bridged the gap of time. Yet, what started as a lovely dinner soon culminated into a heated argument. During dinner, Jessica confided in Mirna about relationship troubles she was having with her then-boyfriend Patrick O'Connor. In response, Mirna candidly expressed her disapproval of Patrick, urging her to consider leaving him. Throughout the conversation, Jessica was silent. It was assumed that she couldn't believe Mirna, one of her closest friends, was actually telling her to part ways with someone who held a significant place in her heart. When Mirna eventually finished her sentence, Jessica abruptly rose from her seat, left her unfinished meal behind, and departed the restaurant without saying goodbye. Following the dinner, a sense of unease settled within Mirna. She confided in her fiancé, Arif, expressing her reservations about meeting Jessica alone in the future. She decided that she would never want to meet Jessica again, at least not alone, and any subsequent encounter would involve the presence of a companion, either Arif or their mutual friends Hani or Vera. In November of 2015, a mere 5 months after their encounter in Sydney, Mirna embarked on a new chapter of her life by exchanging wedding vows with Arif. The couple's wedding was held in Bali, and it was nothing short of a fairy tale spectacle. It was evident through photos and videos that the couple had spent a considerable sum of money on the decorations, venue, and food. Yet, amid the splendor and grandeur, Mirna made the decision not to extend an invitation to Jessica. Records state that when Arif asked her about it, she casually waved it off, expressing that she wasn't comfortable having Jessica around and wanted to avoid any potential issues on their big day. However, she did invite other friends, such as Hani and Vera, whom she met through Jessica in Sydney. While it may appear that Mirna holds a negative role in this narrative, let's consider Jane's perspective.
We never fought. I mean, obviously, because Mirna is friends with everybody. One thing that I did mention over again and again is that Mirna is she speaks her mind, but it's of a good intention, I would say. You know, she doesn't overthink, whereby we overthink too much. But for Mirna, she sees things in a way where it's so simplified, like, why don't you just do this? You know what I mean? That'll solve the problem. So she's very direct, but that's what makes Mirna Mirna. That's how we know her.
Straightforward, candid, but sincere. That was Mirna's character. It's likely that her straightforwardness regarding Jessica's relationship might have caused her to abruptly leave the restaurant in a fit of anger that evening.
She was 27 at the time, 27-year-old. Could have passed away without, any prior health issues. We couldn't even comprehend it in the beginning.
In stark contrast to Mirna's life, Jessica's was on a different path, marked by its own set of challenges and uncertainties, and quite a few of them. In 2015, Jessica was living alone in her Sydney apartment, and within the span of just a year, her life took a distressing turn as she found herself hospitalized on 5 different occasions, each stemming from her struggles with failed suicide attempts and incidents of self-harm. In January, Jessica's boyfriend, Patrick O'Connor, called the police on Jessica after she had threatened to kill herself with a knife. In August of the same year, Jessica found herself under the influence of alcohol and behind the wheel of her Audi Q3 when it veered off course, collided with a curb, and crashed forcefully through a brick wall, stopping just before the bedrooms of a nursing home. The accident stirred many of the nursing home's residents, turning the scene into chaos. It even garnered the attention of a local news camera crew. Among the captured footage was an injured Jessica, laying within the confines of an ambulance. Although her Audi looked wrecked beyond repair, Jessica emerged with only a handful of cracked ribs and a smattering of bruises. 2 months later, Patrick calls the police again, this time telling them that Jessica had started a small barbecue inside her bedroom and shut off all the windows, sealing herself inside and inhaling as much carbon monoxide as possible in an attempt to end her own life. 2 weeks after this, police were called yet again to Jessica's apartment. This time, they found an empty whiskey bottle next to her bed with 3 handwritten letters, one of them pointing a damning finger at Patrick O'Connor as the reason behind her suicide. The remaining letters, meant for her family and workplace, bore the weight of farewell in the form of somber suicide notes. By late November, Patrick's patience reached its limit and he filed a restraining order against Jessica. Patrick mentioned receiving regular voice and text messages from Jessica where she threatened self-harm. She also persistently messaged Patrick's friends and family when he was unavailable. Jessica's situation worsened in 2017. She lost her job as a graphic designer and faced a court trial for DUI. At this low point, with limited prospects in Sydney, she chose to return to Jakarta, hoping for a new beginning. Prior to her departure, Jessica created a WhatsApp group chat and added some friends she made from her time at Billy Blue. Among the members of this group chat was Mirna, and although she did not immediately reply, she ultimately accepted Jessica's invitation to have dinner together. And so, on December 12, 2015, Mirna, accompanied by her newlywed husband Arif, joined Jessica for an evening meal at a restaurant in North Jakarta. During this occasion, Mirna and Arif chose to disclose to Jessica that they had recently tied the knot. It's hard to grasp the impact of such news on someone as downtrodden as Jessica, but what was certain was that the mood had shifted to one of discomfort. A few days after this, another message from Jessica arrives in the WhatsApp group. This time, inviting the group of girls to meet up and catch up at a cafe in January. However, what struck as peculiar was her abrupt shift in behavior. She appeared to be extra generous and friendly. The WhatsApp conversation history between the girls revealed that she had offered to arrange a reservation and went above and beyond by generously offering to shoulder the expenses for their upcoming gathering. Mirna asks where they should meet, to which Jessica immediately replies, "Olivier." Mirna then says, "Oh yeah, delicious. I love their Vietnamese iced coffee."
So, what I know was that this was not long after Jessica went back to Jakarta. She wanted to meet up with Mirna, but Mirna was, this is what I gathered from, our friends, the news articles. What I've been told is that Mirna did not feel comfortable meeting Jessica because the last time they met, it did not end on a good note. Basically, when they last met, it was not a great experience for both of them. So that's why Mirna brought Honey, her friend, their mutual friend, along with them. The one thing that I know is that Jessica arrived at the cafe hours early. Seems like she was scouting the area to find like the best seat in the cafe to where it's out of the CCTV view. And then I remember, because I watched the CCTV as well, she left for a little bit. She came back with Bath and Body Works shopping bags. And then she came back, ordered drinks. She insisted on ordering drinks. And then Hani and Mirna came. Mirna took a sip. She said, "Oh, why does it taste weird? Why does it taste weird?"
It's around 5:20 p.m. at the Olivier Café, and everyone is panicking. The waiters and the manager hurried over to offer assistance. Hani calls out to Mirna, attempting to wake her from an unresponsive state. Yet, Jessica remains seated, seemingly indifferent to the unfolding turmoil. As the first responders rushed to help Mirna, Jessica turned and said to the manager, "What did you put in the coffee?" Given the context of the situation and the fact that they were in the midst of a crisis, focusing on what was in the coffee seemed oddly suspicious. In response, the manager instructed the waiting staff to preserve the remaining portion of Mirna's coffee rather than dispose of it. This seemingly innocuous action would later prove to be a pivotal element of evidence in this case, because it was what was discovered in the coffee that killed Mirna.
So I think they already found the reason. They found cyanide in Mirna's system, and they did find cyanide in the coffee. I think we immediately agreed that Mirna is healthy. There's no way that this healthy, she was 27 at the time, 27-year-old, could have passed away without any prior health issues. So we knew that something, if it was heart attack, it would have been really surprising. But then to find that it was cyanide, we couldn't even comprehend it in the beginning.
In Indonesia, a predominantly Muslim country, securing consent for an autopsy on Mirna to figure out her cause of death was a task that required considerable persuasion. This was further complicated by Islamic beliefs, which dictate that the deceased should be buried promptly, ideally within 24 hours of death.
It took a little bit of time for Mirna's family to agree to an autopsy. I did recall an interview with, this is Mirna's dad at a news station, where Mirna's dad, he was still hesitant. He did admit that he was hesitant. He did not know if he wanted to go through with the autopsy. So he actually went to Mirna. He kissed her forehead and just apologized to her and to tell her that I'm so sorry, but we have to send you for autopsy.
Cyanide is a rapidly acting and deadly chemical that interferes with the body's ability to use and preserve oxygen, and it doesn't take a big amount to kill an adult human. In fact, about 120 to 150 milligrams of liquid cyanide is all it takes to kill a man within minutes. Thanks to the manager of the Olivier Café, who had preserved Mirna's drink, police confirmed that Mirna's cup of coffee had indeed been laced with a lethal dose of cyanide. Subsequently, Jessica Wongso emerges as the #1 suspect.
There was never really a doubt in my mind. If you look at the CCTV, you can tell it was really suspicious. So, to me, the CCTV made it really clear.
On January 30th, 3 weeks after Mirna's death, Jessica was arrested. This captured the attention of reporters all over Indonesia, as well as internationally. It was a sensational breakthrough in the case, and cameras were following Jessica everywhere she went. Interestingly, when faced with the glare of the cameras, Jessica's demeanor exuded an air of calm and poise, marked by a serene smile. This would be a recurring theme throughout the course of Jessica's trial. She was often seen smiling and waving with an extremely calm composure.
I feel like the minute you Google Mirna's name, like a bunch of articles popped up. I would say within a week, there was already a lot of news, a lot of interviews. They are trying so hard to interview people.
Despite how much she seemed to enjoy the attention, Jessica was consistent in her statements to the police that she had no involvement in Mirna's poisoning. But after 2 days' worth of psychological evaluations, the police concluded that Jessica was on the surface a smart, calm, and confident person. However, she had the personality of an amorous narcissist. These types of people thrive on being the center of attention and show a complete lack of remorse. They resort to lying and deceit in pursuit of their desires.
Jessica was the main suspect. It was pretty immediate. I almost want to say she was the prime suspect from the get-go. To me, it's very senseless. It's basically murder. There's no reason for you to give someone cyanide.
So, why did Jessica want to kill Mirna? Well, the truth is, no one knows for sure. But numerous theories have surfaced, ranging from the more plausible to the less credible. Some say that Jessica had feelings for Mirna, and the prospect of losing her to marriage became an overwhelming burden. The theory is that if Jessica couldn't have Mirna, she wouldn't allow Arif to have her either. Nonetheless, Jessica consistently denies any claims regarding her romantic feelings for Mirna. During our interview with Jane, she gives an alternative theory on why Jessica could have wanted Mirna dead.
A lot of things were circulating. I did mention previously there was someone making up a story saying that Jessica is in love with Mirna, but Sandy actually did an interview. And Sandy was saying she's jealous. She's jealous of Mirna. Because things were going well for Mirna. She got married.
Things were indeed going well for Mirna. She just had a fairy tale wedding and was planning to start a family of her own. In contrast, however, Jessica faced a string of setbacks, including getting fired from a job and several legal issues.
Because Mirna told her to break up with the boyfriend, and it seems like she held this grudge, thinking that, all these bad things that happened to me, it's all because of Mirna. So that's most plausible in our minds.
On the 15th of June 2016, 6 months after Mirna's death, Indonesia's trial of the century began at the Central Jakarta State Court. Rows of news reporters and arrays of cameras adorned the courtroom's perimeter, while across the nation, many remained glued to their TV screens to watch the drama unfold. The trial began with the prosecution accusing Jessica of premeditated murder, urging the court to impose the death penalty. They brought in a parade of witnesses to testify, including Mirna's dad, Eddie, who took the stand and recounted how Jessica was acting strange at the hospital on the day of Mirna's death. He stated that Jessica was unusually composed and calm, despite having just witnessed her friend's tragic death. He also mentioned that Hani, on the other hand, was visibly shaken and in tears. Then, Arif Samako, Mirna's newlywed husband, testified about her relationship to Jessica, saying how Mirna would feel uncomfortable around her ever since the altercation at the restaurant in Sydney. The prosecution went so far as to call upon Sandy, Mirna's twin sister, whose testimony revealed something astonishing. She claimed to have overheard Jessica utter the words, "I'm sorry," after Mirna was officially declared dead at the hospital. In the face of these first-hand accounts, it probably wouldn't have been easy for Jessica to come up with a defense.
But unfortunately, Mirna and Jessica both came from wealthy families. They hired the best lawyers, and these lawyers, it's more like a debate between lawyers. And there were stories, additional stories that were made something about, someone probably paid the cafe employee to poison Mirna, things like that. But where's the proof? Where's the evidence, So it was just, to us, it's simple, but because it's a court and you have to be fair, you have to deliberate everything closely. So, yeah.
In the third month of the trial, Jessica's defense team fired back. It began with an Australian forensic pathologist explaining that Mirna's passing might not have been a result of cyanide poisoning. He said that there were no traces of cyanide found in Mirna's gastric fluid, which was taken 70 minutes after her death, while the 0.2 grams of cyanide found in her stomach was taken a few days after her death and was therefore likely to have been produced post-death. Another forensic pathologist agreed and explained that Mirna's true cause of death could only be confirmed after conducting a full autopsy. But in this case, they only took samples of her tissues and fluids. This loaded up the rounds for Jessica's legal gun. A team of lawyers made it clear that Mirna's death was not necessarily caused by cyanide poisoning. They suggested that Mirna could have had an unknown pre-existing medical condition that might have played a role in her death. Additionally, they also pointed out that the prosecution couldn't prove where the cyanide came from. Then it was time for Jessica herself to testify. And when she took to the stand, the courtroom was dead silent. Again, she's calm and collected, occasionally smiling as she denies all claims of poisoning and implores the judges to base their verdict on concrete evidence rather than speculation. Amidst the ongoing exchange of arguments between the prosecution and defense, a crucial aspect comes into focus: the CCTV footage. This, coupled with Mirna's preserved coffee cup, emerged as the most crucial pieces of evidence in this case.
The one thing that I know is that Jessica arrived at the cafe hours early. Seems like she was scouting the area to find like the best seat in the cafe to where it's out of the CCTV view.
What Jane says here is right. CCTV cameras actually record Jessica walking into the cafe at 3:30 p.m. when she told the girls to meet at 5. That's 90 minutes earlier than the scheduled meeting time.
Again, what is the purpose of you arriving so early? And if I'm early and I'm in a mall, I would be shopping. I wouldn't be sitting around, looking for the cafe. I would just, maybe get there 15 minutes early or 30 minutes early.
Then the cameras pick up more unusual behavior from Jessica. Just 2 minutes after her arrival, she leaves the cafe, explaining that she's heading out to get gifts for her friends. At 4:14, she re-enters the premises carrying 3 shopping bags from Bath & Body Works. However, instead of proceeding to her seat, she navigates through the cafe, surveying her surroundings from various angles. Police speculate that Jessica did this as a precautionary measure for what she was about to do. Because the last thing you want before you poison someone is to get caught by CCTV cameras doing so.
She was definitely looking for the most secluded spot in the cafe. 1000%. It was too obvious. She glanced around the CCTV a few times. I mean, when I go into a cafe, I don't look for CCTV. I look for a seat. Or maybe the waiter like, hey, like this table okay? I'm like, yes, this table's okay.
Jessica eventually opts to settle in a booth at the corner of the cafe. The foliage did well to obscure her presence from nearby CCTV cameras, but there was one camera situated across the cafe that maintained a direct view of her. It could be possible that Jessica was aware of this. She might have even made eye contact with the camera. However, her subsequent actions are what really stirs intrigue. She proceeds to lift the 3 shopping bags and positions them on the table, effectively obstructing the CCTV from capturing whatever was on the table. Minutes later, Jessica orders drinks for her friends, which arrive at 4:24 p.m. The waiter places the drinks on the table, and upon observing the CCTV footage, it becomes apparent that Jessica slowly repositions the bags, almost as if she's ensuring that the drinks are well concealed.
I guess for whatever reason, she really wanted to order for them. So that's what happened. I mean, I would rather order my drinks when I get there, because if it's a hot drink, it will get cold. If it's a cold drink, the ice would melt.
At 5:16 p.m., Mirna and Hani arrive. The Vietnamese iced coffee that was meant for Mirna has been sitting on the table for close to an hour. After sitting down, Mirna takes a sip and her expression registers clear distaste with the coffee. Seconds later, her head tilts back and foam is coming out from her mouth. On the 27th of October 2016, Jessica Kumala Wongso was officially convicted for the murder of Mirna Salihin. The judges agreed and found the prosecution's case to be convincing and plausible. In their deliberations, the judges found Jessica's conduct on the day of the incident to be incredibly suspicious. Not only did she enter the cafe hours before, seemingly to familiarize herself with the surroundings, she also deliberately placed the shopping bags on the table to obscure the camera's view. Hence, Indonesia's trial of the century reached its conclusion as the judges delivered a verdict of guilty for premeditated murder, resulting in a 20-year prison sentence for Jessica. She would not be facing the firing squad, as Jessica was an Australian citizen, and a bilateral agreement between the two nations ensured that the death penalty would not be pursued in the event of her conviction. So, how does Jane feel about the outcome of the trial?
It's a little half-half for us. We felt that there was justice because they were able to keep Jessica behind bars for 20 years. But I think all of us were hoping for life sentence. There's a little bit of relief because it has been long. I cannot imagine how Mirna's family and her husband felt throughout the whole trial.
When the news broke out about Jessica's 20-year prison sentence, her legal team declared its intention to lodge an appeal. Expressing his reservations and dissatisfaction, Otto Hazebuan, the chief defense attorney for Jessica, remarked, "We are concerned and disappointed because the judges did not fully consider the evidence that we presented at the trial. The judges only considered evidence from prosecutors." As of today, Jessica remains behind bars with her sentence intact. The future is uncertain, but what is clear is that her legal team will continue attempting to clear her name.
I cannot imagine how Mirna's family and her husband felt throughout the whole trial. It's not fun, and I'm sure they want to see the end of the trial and to have the 20 years verdict. I think Sandy is okay with it. I follow Sandy's Instagram. There was a post. She wrote, "My sister can rest in peace now. The cloud over her head is gone, and we can start healing at this point. Thank God, rest in peace, my dear twin. I love you forever." Mirna is, although she can be tough, she has like a tough exterior. She's actually so loving, so caring inside. I'm gonna tear up. She is just she's just super sweet. I don't know how else to explain to her. It's like everyone just use the same words to explain her, but that really is Mirna. And it's just so sad that she had that type of she's just taken away so soon. Yep. Oh, you guys did it.